costume guest. And all of these people were nice enough to accompany me with the panels for this one, and then tomorrow we have costume and cosplay, kind of like the differences and the controversy and things like that. And if you guys want to introduce yourselves, go ahead. That'd be good.
I'm Hilda Schrader. I'm from Edmonton, Alberta. I'm fairly new to costuming. I've been doing it for a couple of years. I love going to places and thinking about brought some things for you guys to take a look at and help you to think that. You may see something, but I'm telling you, today we were driving and I saw some rods in the ground and I went, that would be great for something. You know, think outside the box. You'd be amazed what you can come up with if you do that.
I'm Emery Honor. I like costuming. I'm not very good at sewing, so it's more, I'll do that. If somebody hands me something, it's like, yeah, I can sew a straight line. I'll help put costumes together. I like wearing costumes. Prefer modeling them. But, yeah.
I'm Shelley Ann Jensen. I'm here in Edmonton for the USS Bonaventure and also the SCA. Been costuming for about 22 years now, I guess. Something like that. Everything from make it up as you go while you drape it to following an actual pattern. I'm sewing a lot for other people as well as myself. Let's see, I'm on number 37 of the Star Trek Monster Balloons now. And somebody's still waiting for it to get finished. Yes, I know.
I'm Carla Noble. I'm from here. I've been sewing since like grade 6. And I started drafting patterns when everyone else in my sewing classes were like learning how to do buttonholes. I draft patterns, I alter patterns. I take on crazy projects. I probably shouldn't manage to finish them, so. And I do some work with like making latex stuff. I'm really good at wounds and zombie makeup.
This is about my second year that I've done costuming, and I do try and cut corners with budgeting to make it more affordable, because it is a really expensive hobby. And I actually did 1 year of a master's program in doing like kind of sci-fi costumes, and I had to learn to adapt because I only had a set budget since I had about, I think, $1,000 to spend for an entire year just on many costumes. So I had to learn to adapt and budget things and learn to find these kind of cheap ways on making costumes. And I mean, that's what we're going to be going over today, kind of just discussing ways to make it easier on yourself for costuming, especially for like beginners and people who don't really have the funding to make, you know, a $2,000 costume, because some of us do not have that kind of money. We can kind of get started. Basically, the first thing for budgeting is having, if you're having like a costume that you know you want to do from like a known source like Star Trek, Star Wars, anything like that, make a plan for it and set a budget. That does help in budgeting, is to budget your expenses. If you're going to do only $100, then you have to start making a plan on what you're going to have to buy things from maybe thrift stores or clearance items, and what things you will really splurge on. So if any of you want to talk, I don't want to take over the whole panel.
So, I'm sort of an example of that. I've been working on a Wonder Woman costume for a while, and I've been finding bits of fabric, good deals and stuff. Most of it I haven't spent much money on at all, except I actually found the blue stretch fabric with the white stars, so I did let myself spend the $30 a meter to get that, but luckily I only need 1 meter because it's stretch fabric.
I think the whole point is the more exact you want it, if you're replicating the costume, the more it's going to cost you, whether that's in money or time, to find the right things. more flexible you can be, you know, make it, what Hill refers to as make it your own, you know. In effect, compromises, the easier it's going to be. So you have to decide between slavishly copying something, going to take time and money, to making something that is pretty much like it, just not exact.
Yeah, and there is kind of like a little mantra that goes on in costuming, which is, I have it on here, there's fast, cheap, and good, and you can only pick two. I mean, you're really gonna have to make sacrifices, especially if you're budgeting. If you're trying to go down to the wire and use cheap things, it's not gonna look very good. Usually when you're budgeting and you have maybe a shirt from a thrift store and you need to alter it, you have to spend a lot of time on making it just right. And if you want it to be like an exact replica, you're gonna have to splurge and spend that money. So you kind of have to have this nice balance on dedicating how much time you want to work on your costume to make sure it's gonna be affordable and looks nice and you know, still saving your money. So.
And sometimes you just can't find the fabric if you want to do an identical piece to something that you've seen. A lot of all the shows basically have very exclusive stock to the fabric, and you won't find it in Fabricland. So you have to decide, am I going to be close? How close am I going to be? Can the shade color be off? Can I do something different? Because unless you're working at Universal or Time Warner, you know, you're not going to be able to find the fabric often.
I wasn't expecting to find the blue fabric with the white stars. I was getting ready to try and do my own somehow with fabric paint or something, but so it was a very pleasant surprise.
When you find something, buy it.
Yes.
And color matching from a black and white show is not easy, so.
Yeah. And with that, like with finding the perfect thing and just, you know, buying it, another good thing is too, like that is like the splurge item you want. But what you need to do too is whenever you're shopping around, don't buy the first thing you see if it's like a common item, because you can probably find it at another store that's on sale. You can probably find it at a thrift store. And then you can also ask yourself, do I really need this, or can I make it myself? Like for instance, if you need like a prop gun, and someone on eBay is selling like a very nice pristine prop gun, but it's hundreds of dollars, whenever you could just make something out of like paper mache or a water gun or something like that and paint it up, kind of add to it, it's going to be much cheaper in the long run, and it can still look nice as long as you dedicate and put time into it and craftsmanship. And that's a really key thing is asking yourself, is this something I need? I mean, I've made that mistake. I bought one of my first costumes. I bought a giant helmet, and it was actually, I thought it was the right shape, right materials, everything. But whenever I actually got it, the dimensions were huge. I could fit like a giant baby inside of it, and I mean, it took up like this much of my face, and it swallowed me whole. And I spent $50 on that thing, and I thought it was going to be perfect, and it wasn't. It wasn't what I thought it was, and I just wasted money. And so you have to research your items, shop around, and ask yourself if you can actually take the time out of your day and work on this thing so that you can get it just right.
Another thing is, with a lot of outfits, your makeup and your accessories can sell it, where the costume itself, it may be only sort of right. We've done a lot of Klingons. If you've got the right makeup, it doesn't matter. The outfit just isn't made out of all the right materials.
Yeah.
Because people see that makeup and right away they know what the outfit is.
Yeah, exactly. Like details and little accessories are really going to help your costume pop. I mean, even if you are off in color or maybe a pattern, I mean, if you do have like the right makeup and prosthetics and things like that, which you will have to splurge on, unfortunately, it's going to be recognizable. It's still going to be a very good costume. And with that, I do have a few photos on here where there's examples. this is, there's a group in Indiana, and they do a lot of very cheap costumes. And what they do is, guns are usually not permitted in convention halls. So what they did was, they went to a store and bought like $1 paper mache L shape that usually some people like paint and hang up in their room. And they actually painted it to look like their guns. And from far away and from like photos, they look real. So by kind of taking that dollar thing and using just simple acrylic paints, they can have this convention-friendly weapon while still having a prop to complement their costumes. And I mean, that's a good starter for people who don't really know how to build up their like weapons or props from scratch, is working on something very simple and just painting on top of it. And I hate going on and on and on.
A couple things to remember, Value Village is your friend.
Yeah.
And we don't just mean for their Halloween costumes. You go in there, you find a cheap leather coat or a fur coat, you tear it apart, and you've got things that you can remake into your own costumes. I see
Yeah,
someone back there.
this is from the sleeve of a leather coat.
Yeah.
And then I made the rest of it into a vest and a symbol on the back of the vest.
Yeah. Okay, here we have, this used to be a beige suede jacket. Ripped out the lining, hand dyed it to make it a Picard jacket from Star Trek. It's seen much better days.
It's well
like it's been in a
loved.
battle.
Yeah, well, with my crew, you know what it's like. And then you just added the insignia. And it comes really close, although it doesn't have quite the right design here, but, you know, you paint to where the seams are to minimize them. And it's a lot cheaper than buying all of the leather or the suede and making it up.
Yes.
And that was
We brought lots of things to show you guys.
Oh, yes.
I made this pattern. I sort of got it off the internet. Always make a mock-up if you're gonna have
Yes.
many mock-ups for this one. Leather from Valley Village. Went and found the cheapest leather jackets, nice long ones, $30. Inside is the underlay for laminate flooring. It's really, really neat. It's pliable. It has a little bit of structure. You can bend it, you can shape it, and you know, as long as you, what I do is, my lovely little clip. I clip it so that it stays that way. As long as you either sew it or clip it, it'll stay true to its form. So.
You'd be amazed what you can do with placemats.
Oh, yeah.
They did that on the original series. Atlanta Troyos, those bodyguards had plastic placemats.
And a lot of Klingons do.
Placemats and
carve-
suede.
carve, floor mats for their shin guards. So there's lots.
Do we need to stand up?
This one, no, it's okay. This is really cheap from Fabricland, broadcloth, cheap lining. The velvet ribbon is worth more than the whole rest of the outfit. And I chose it rather than the satin because it's easier to work with. So this is really cheap to make except for the ribbon and a lot of time put in doing the hand embroidery. But you know, the cheap section at a fabric store, and keep in mind what you can use it for.
And I used to go to Fabricland a lot and look through their discount, but then I found Marshall's Discount Fabrics, which is a whole store of discounted fabric. And usually they're pretty good if you go in and you're like, I need this much fabric and this is sort of my budget. Sometimes you can knock a bunch off. I bought 80 meters of purple stretch fabric for dance costumes, and then the dance teacher changed the pattern, so I didn't need as much, so I only ended up using like 3 meters for 12 costumes. So I have a lot of purple stretch fabric now.
Anybody needs purple stretch fabric.
I'd be willing to sell some.
Yeah, and the day after Halloween is also a really good time
Yes.
to find stuff, like even at the dollar stores, like their little fake guns and stuff, $2 and $8 can of spray paint. You can paint a million of them, and you've got like it looks like a gun.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Water pistols
Yeah.
are also really great sci-fi guns. I actually have, that one is made out of DDR matte foam. That is an amazing gun. So they used, just something they had lying around the house. This weapon is made out of toilet paper rolls, an old prop blade, a broken stick, a broken PVC pipe, crumpled paper, hot glue, scraps of foam, duct tape, model magic, and scrap vinyl. And it looks pretty nice. This group has been known for having their weapons banned because they look so realistic. And
They go out of their way to make things.
yeah, and this is actually one of their other guns that they made out of like measuring cups, like plastic measuring cups and other like kitchen accessories. And that was a weapon that was banned from a convention because it looked too real. And so, I mean, these are just great ways to make props. It's just taking unordinary things and molding them into an actual prop that you can use. There's also, let's see. This is a water pistol, and it looks like a very nice kind of starter pistol for Mass Effect. And so what I just did was since it was excessively yellow, I just kind of painted it so that it looked like the design where they have the striping and things like that. And I left the nozzles yellow so that they were aware that, it was just a sci-fi prop gun, because there are certain limits to convention rules. Sometimes they won't even let sci-fi guns in, so sometimes you have to keep the tips painted a weird color. But, and again, going off of what you were saying about how you had, you get discounts at fabric stores, find coupons and save them up. This is a huge thing that's going to really save you money, is that whenever you're making a plan and setting a budget, set a timeline for how long you're going to work on it, because a lot of places will have coupon booklets that they can send to your house, and then they'll be like 50% off a yard of fabric, 50% off a jewelry accessory, 50% off, lots of things. And I don't know if you guys have it here, but in Illinois there's a Joann Fabrics, and they give huge booklets about once every 2 months that have pages full of like 40 and 50% off coupons. And that's when I do my shopping. And I make sure that it's not last minute so that I can save money. And again, thrift stores, garage sales are
Cheap and good is your part of the mantra.
yeah. I really have. I mean, nowadays, I wasn't in the beginning at all, and now I've realized how much money I've sunk in, and I think this is one of my cheaper ones. The most expensive was the makeup and the mold, but honestly, all of this stuff is something I've either reused from a previous costume, something that I've torn up an old costume and used. This white fabric is the only fabric I had to buy, and the rest I had from older costumes. So,
Speaking of recycling, the entire outfit is made from repurposed and recycled items, so will you tell us about how you put it together?
The fabric actually is home decorating fabric that my landlady had. These are curtains. This is just a bunch of different rings that I got at the thrift store. These are all earrings that I put on. There's you can't see it, but there's a ring in the back, which is, that I got at the thrift store. Yeah, so, I mean, you can get it on the cheap. Totally, you can recycle stuff, so. Maybe some talking about like Halloween, I had seen this at one of the local stores for, 75% off, right? And it's sort of a witchy costume, and I went, I like it because I liked this. This is the one piece of the whole thing that I liked, and it was red. And I went, ooh, that could go into some kind of a Klingon outfit. I belong to the Star Trek group. This was like size 0. I went, I'll never be size 0 in my whole life. So what I did is I found some fabric really cheap. I added paneling here, I put new sleeves on. And because I put a chevron shape in the bottom, and now it's a Klingon dress. So you just can take something and size it to whatever you want, play with it. I mean, you can sew, or you can find someone who can sew for you.
Again, this is another one of the ones that's really sold by your makeup and accessories.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
So it can be a lot of different things depending on how you accessorize.
Yeah, so definitely thrift stores are your best friend.
I have a question about painting weapons. What kind of paints are probably the best for painting like plastic guns and that sort of thing? And
Modeling paints, actually.
Modeling?
Modeling paints, anything you can buy for making models. You just buy the usual primers that you would do for, like, go to a modeling store. Preferably something that sells car models, plane models, stuff like that. And tester paints. Also, they also have definitely very, very, very good variety of colors because they're made for making miniature models. So.
Okay, what are some of the things, mistakes that you can make, and what sort of things do you want to watch out that you don't want to do?
Make sure that you sand and prime whatever surface you're going to be painting. Very,
Do it in
very
a well-ventilated area.
Oh, yes. Preferably outdoors, or if you have a section set up in your basement for it, cardboard and newspaper are your best friend, especially if you don't want to get every surface.
Yeah, I can speak from personal experience that using spray paints, even if you've got it really nicely laid out with newspaper everywhere, there's a powder that comes off it
Yes.
and just goes everywhere.
That's
It's
why you
easy
want
to
a very
clean up, but it's a
well-ventilated
pain in the
area.
ass.
Or a special box. that you
Yeah,
can-
exactly. My father does this, I speak from experience, but he's got this little three-sided box that he uses, and he covers it in newspaper. And also, if you can get that orange modeling putty that you use to fill cracks and whatnot, and then you sand it down just to fill anything that doesn't look right, isn't put together properly, and then you sand it, paint it, or prime it, and then paint it. And just make sure you have a picture to work off of. You want it as close as possible.
Yeah, that was another problem with that helmet I got. I actually, I started working on the costume after not playing the game for a very long time. I was like, oh yeah, that totally looks like it, and then not at all. Reference photos will also save your life. And
Yes.
they're cheap if they're online, so.
Yeah, Google it.
I also wanted to say, cardboard and paper mache are like also your best friends for prop making. This guy, his name is Featherweight. He does all of his props out of cardboard, hot glue, and paper mache. And he dedicates a lot of time and a lot of work to them so they look nice. And if you really work at it, I mean, I don't know if you can see that, but it's the Legend of Zelda shield, and this is before he paints it, but they always look amazing. And he has a collection of helmets that he makes out of cardboard and hot glue. And I can always show you guys this at the end if you can't see it very well. And then he also makes replica props. And he just layers on the cardboard and uses a hot glue kind of sealer all the way around it, and then paints on top of it.
A lot
And
of hot glue.
yeah, a lot.
One of the other things that you can use for making prop weapons and shields and stuff is you could probably go to a company here in Edmonton called Norseman Foams. They may also be based out of Calgary. And you can buy what we call dense foam or closed cell foam. And you can carve that stuff like you wouldn't believe.
Oh, yeah,
You
that's
use a really
stuff.
sharp knife.
Yeah.
And it spray paints beautifully.
If you want to make insignia that's just not available anywhere, or that you can't afford where it is available, friendly plastic,
Silly
or
Well,
some things that are very detailed, that color photocopies, laminated, and then you put a little bit of Velcro on the back and stick it onto your outfit. It looks pretty good.
Where do you get friendly plastic?
Craft stores.
Michael sells them.
But it's
There's
called
a-
friendly plastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anywhere where you can get modeling clay, plasticine, that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, pretty much.
And then it's just hot water.
I've heard about guys doing really big, bulky props and armor and whatnot by just making a frame and using expanding foam and then carving and
Yes.
sanding
Yeah,
it. Is that
that
the
works.
option?
That works as well.
Yeah, the downside is though, don't let it get on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then you have to do a lot of carving and sanding, and it's not good to breathe any of that in. So it's kind of toxic, but that great stuff can, it comes about like this big, it's about $3 for it. And it does, it helps you kind of sculpt and carve whatever you want. And actually, I'll be talking about that tomorrow, the sculpting. There's some people who make amazing armor just out of the stuff, and it's lightweight. They just use kind of wire mesh and paper mache and then cover it with the great stuff and sculpt and paint, and it looks beautiful. And I mean, that's just stuff that's pretty cheap. I mean, that's another good way to kind of really really work at, and because I mean you're gonna have to do a lot of carving, sanding, painting, and it's just one of those things again where you want it cheap and good, you're not gonna finish it quickly. So.
And also, again, anytime you're working with anything that has small particles and is known to be a toxic substance, wear eye protective eyeglasses, respirators if you have to, and work in a very well ventilated area. Outside is the best place to do it, but in the middle of winter when you're making your costume, you can't do that. So your best bet is to go into the bathroom, turn the fan on, and wear your protective gear, and then just don't go in the bathroom when you're finished. So yeah.
Speaking of experience, are you?
Oh yes, Dad had to use the bathroom for painting one year in the middle of winter for a contest. 6 hours it took to clear out.
Again, with kind of recycling your items, even using clothing, shoes, accessories that you own, usually people call that closet cosplay. It's cheap and easy for, you know, just sci-fi TV shows like Firefly,
Doctor Who.
yeah, Doctor Who especially. You can find some of that stuff in your own closet, and then, you know, you're not spending any money, just, you know, taking these items from your closet and just reusing them. You don't have to have special fancy shoes for your costume if you have something that looks very similar to it. I mean, honestly, costume shoes are just shoes, so.
One year, I spent so much time making everyone else costumes for Halloween. It came down to it, and I'm like, I don't have anything for myself to wear. So I started looking at superheroes that were simple, and I ended up managing to find everything I needed for a perfect Zatanna costume in my closet, which is what I was going to wear. Find it for tomorrow.
I'm just going to talk a little bit about dating something too. A bunch of us went to a steampunk wedding, and you're trying to punk up something, and you have a bunch of people steampunk this. Fortunately, I had a dead VCR. And I took apart the dead VCR. And Danielle made a purse. It's a punk purse. Spray painted the board. Good to go. Thank you very much. You're welcome. And I told my family about this, and they thought, like, I'm not really talking about this. I was trying to explain to them. Found this at a thrift store for 50 cents. These are all bits and bobs from the VCR. Found a little key, I think, at the thrift store. And my brother-in-law, Mr. Genius, came up with, why don't you put a bicycle chain? So, very different. I figured out how am I going to get this through here. Cotter pins, I think they were 10 cents at Home Depot. Put it through, works like a dream. This is work in progress. No, I did not drink all the beer that went into this. It's going to be a Baldric at one point. One of the great places in Edmonton to try and find unusual things like this is the Reuse Center, which is downtown by the CN Tower. They often, you go in, you never know what you're going to find. You just go in and see what you can find. And they had bags and bags of these, so I grabbed them all and paid $4. And I've been putting them together. So,
They also have some good fabric scraps there sometimes. too.
yeah, they've got great fabric scraps. They've got pieces of wood, if you need a piece of wood to make something. A bunch of us again went to a Celtic wedding, and I had a throw that on, and was looking for some kind of a neat pin, and found this at Fort Edmonton Park. It's the front of a nightlight. Took it apart, put a couple of rings on that I had, and a pin. And it's a great large brooch for a Celtic outfit.
Don't sit on the hat.
With that too, craft foam, it's usually called EVA foam. It's fairly affordable. You can mold it, you can heat mold it and make it into armor or props. This was one of my first costumes and I wasn't sure like how to go about making anything. So I used craft foam to heat mold it. You can honestly just run it either with a hair dryer or a heat gun or even a stovetop, as long as it's not gas. If it's an
Electric range.
yeah, electric is good. And I was able to just mold it to like it's meant for the forearm, and then I just used scraps of elastic and glued it into place. I used for stabilizing this, I used an old Ethernet cord that I cut up, and it's kind of the little stabilizer to make it sure that it sticks in place. And then usually for coloring craft foam, you can spray paint it, you can gesso it, then spray paint it. With this, there's a method online that people use, and they use rub and buff. It's like a waxy paste that you just rub onto the surface. And then you use a sealer like a Future Cleaner. You use that, coat it and seal it so it doesn't rub off. And then what I did to weather it was I just used black acrylic paint, like cheap black acrylic paint. It was probably 50 cents. And I just I diluted it and I just let it fall through the cracks, and then I wiped it off whenever it's starting to dry so that it had a nice weathered look. And I mean, this is over a year old and it's generally still in really good shape, and I've reused it for a lot of other costumes. I've also done, as a quick prop, I made this like a day before a convention. It's a kind of like a clear clipboard, and then it was like $1 for the clipboard. And then I had white acrylic paint that I just painted on top of it. And then I used layers of craft foam that were different colors. I had scraps of it because I used a lot of craft foam. And so,
Save your scraps.
yeah, save your scraps. I know there's like little pieces when you're like, I don't want to keep this, but honestly, you're going to be working on something else and be like, oh man,
Wish I kept.
yeah,
that.
I wish I kept these little pieces. Yeah,
It can
so,
almost be guaranteed that the day after you throw it out, you realize, oh, I needed that piece.
yes, don't,
It's too late.
I know it's bad to like hoard and be a pack rat, but honestly with this stuff, it saves you a lot more money because usually, I know where I live, foam sheets are about $1 a piece, so while they're still cheap, but again, you really want to save all the scraps so that you don't have to go back and buy like another $2 or $3 worth of foam for just a little thing. And then I just painted over some of the places with acrylic paints. I used hot glue to bond it all together. And I mean, it looks pretty good in photos. Looking up close, it's a little bit sketchy, but honestly, I use it mainly for photographs, and it looks pretty nice in photos. So that's another thing to save on, is if you don't have a lot of money, or if you're running out of time, if you aren't very good at crafting or sewing, if you're making a costume, try and make it only for photo purposes, because rather than like a convention. That's what I did during my master's degree. They were all strictly for photography, and I would just bond a lot of things with hot glue and wear them, and then they would fall apart, but they looked pretty cool in all the pictures. And just having it as a temporary costume where you only need photos of it, it really does help you cut time and money, and it can look pretty decent on camera, and there's also Photoshop. But
on the other hand, if you're making a costume you're going to wear all day at the convention, be prepared to sacrifice something for comfort. If you can't sit down in it, it's not going to be good for all day at the convention. If you can't eat and drink while wearing it, or go to the bathroom while wearing it, that's fine for one costume contest, and then you're out of it.
not
So you have to
something
think, what's the
wearing.
purpose of the outfit before you're making your commitment?
And I'm really bad for that. I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna pee, and then I'm gonna put my costume on, and I'm not gonna drink anything until today is over. And then I won't have to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah,
No.
yeah, make sure you are eating and drinking.
You definitely want to be able to get in and out of that costume quickly if need be.
If you pass out in a very expensive costume
Yeah.
and
It's
you've been
gone.
drinking, it's not gonna be expensive to wash you back, pick you up.
Most of mine aren't like that now.
For splurging a little bit more on a prop, I took a Nerf like blaster pistol, which is also a good base, and to make it look more true to the series, and there are some faults to it. It was my first attempt at working with a new type of material, which is Bondo, and it's
You want some help with it?
yes. Gloves are not good for this. Basically, what I did was to kind of change it into the gun that it is now.
Quick, take it away from him.
Sorry, I buried myself in the
If you look at the top photo, I used a paper mache handle to, and I just honestly I hot glued it to the piece. To extend the back, I used cardboard and paper mache to cover it up. And then there's a little sight that is just, we cut it off of there and refastened it on. And we took another scrap from another gun, cut it up, gave it another nozzle, gave it kind of like a bolt. And then we just layered Bondo on it. And Bondo is like car filler. And you mix it, and it starts drying very quickly, so you have to use like a squeegee and like start layering it. And it's a very long process. It took about, what, like a week and a half, 2 weeks? Yeah.
Takes about an hour to cure.
Did you
Yeah.
did you smooth it down by sanding it? What-
Yes, yeah, mouse power sanders, they're about $20, but if you're making a lot of props, a lot of armor, you will need it. That is a thing to splurge on, is a lot of power tools. Because honestly, you're going to be using it again if you do a lot of costuming. And, I mean, we would just put it on there, we'd smooth it down, we'd keep building it up and building it up and building it up. And then there's a lot of like 3-dimensional things that I didn't put on there, so I just used acrylic paint to just paint it on top of it. And, I mean, I think it's good for a first try. I mean, there are other people who spend more time and a little bit more money on it, and they look way better, but I had people asking through the convention like how much it was because they wanted to buy it off of me. They thought it was a great like replica, and it was just originally a Nerf gun and just scraps of Nerf gun pieces and PVC pipe. So, I mean, it took a lot of time. I did cut costs on it, which, and I did actually, I ran out of time, so there's a lot that I still wanted to work on, but unfortunately, it didn't happen. But it's another good example of sacrificing that time and taking the time to work on these things to make it more accurate to your prop or your costume.
If you're a total novice at costuming and you want to have something for the convention, for whatever purpose, a couple of things to remember is a cape makes almost anything look like a costume. A cape. C-A-P.
A cape will, or
A cape will help with Alice in
Yeah.
Wonderland, but not with a lot of
so you don't make everyone like you more.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cake.
Cake is a good bribe.
The cake is also a lot.
You know, slide it on your face and be like, you like my costume?
Yes, capes will make most things look like it, or if you learn to make a T-tunic, a very simple thing, you can make it into a lot of different robes. And it's very simple, it's not much of a pattern. This is, yeah. You have to take a piece of material, fold it in half one way, the length of whatever you want to sew, and sew it into, then turn it into a quarter, you know, put it this way.
Hang on.
A T tunic here.
T-tunic.
Yes. And then you're going to cut up and over. You might have to put inserts if you don't have wide enough material. and put a neckline on it, and you have the very most basic of tunics, robes, and by accessorizing and you can change shapes on the arms, you have a starter costume.
This one looks very warm. Yeah, it is. That's why I'm not wearing it.
The one that I made in velour with quilt batting in it is even warmer.
With kind of like off of that, on EC Patterns, the internet is a huge help on free patterns.
It's your best friend.
Yeah, it's a lifesaver. I still frequently look on YouTube for video demonstrations, on websites for photo demonstrations. It's a huge help. All you have to do is literally just Google things, or there are some forums that will help you on keeping things affordable. There's one that I started learning how to alter like t-shirts, which was, I think it's whatthecraft.com, and they'll just take old t-shirts, they'll fuse them together, they'll turn them into a different style of a t-shirt, they'll show you how to make things into bags using old t-shirts. I mean, it's a really good starter, and some of it you don't even need sewing for, you just learn to kind of tie it all up and everything, and I mean, it's fantastic. There's so much stuff that you can learn on there instead of like buying a pattern and then you know, sometimes patterns cost like $15 depending on how much stuff there is in it. And honestly, you can probably just go online and have a whole tutorial on it and not even bother buying a pattern.
Be careful of your sites. We had one of our members go online, get a nice cape pattern, came to our craft meeting, cut it out, sewed it together. He looked like he was wearing a green body bag.
Yeah, it was a really
Wrong
really
pattern,
bad.
It was, yeah. So.
But at the same time, even buying patterns, you have to be kind of careful. I bought a really nice corset pattern, and the pieces were never drawn. And I figured it out because I know how to sew, so I'm like, that doesn't go there. But if it was somebody sewing it for the first time, they would have had the weirdest looking corset in the world.
Yeah, and patterns don't come in all sizes either, so it's like you have
A lot of
to,
times you have to draft your own pattern.
exactly, or modify other ones, like as a larger size, I can't buy off the rack costumes at all. So that's something else too, that where a thrift store is really good, like you can go and get things and modify the hell out of them. Like add panels under the arms and things like that.
If you're going to get serious about sewing, I would recommend going to a place like in Edmonton Metro Community College.
Yes.
They have courses in drafting your own patterns, making a block specifically for your body, and how to adjust commercial patterns so that they will fit properly.
And
And
if
those
you-
are invaluable courses.
And if you don't know how to sew, they also have a beginning course on how to sew.
Yeah, that's definitely like something you should spend the money on, especially if you are going to do a lot of sewing. I did take a college course on learning to sew, and it makes so much more sense now. The terms and the symbols that are on patterns, I now understand them, and it's much easier. Because I know there's probably a lot of you in here who might have looked at a pattern before and was like, what are these two arrows doing right here? What does that even mean? And some patterns are helpful to have that kind of guide, but a lot of them are not. A lot of them are more for like moderate to advanced sewing patterns, and they aren't nice enough to give you a guide. So.
There's also magazines that Edmonton Public Library has a lot of really cool magazines that you can go and look. They had one for Halloween, and I saw it last year, and I saw something, and I thought it was just the neatest idea for somebody who didn't sew. What you did is you took a pair of unusual looking pantyhose, and I thought that was just the strangest thing, but what you did is you cut the feet, cut the feet off, and you take it and you make a hole where the gusset is, put it over your head, and you stick your arms through the water. And so it was a unusual pattern, so it looked very like tattoos. And then what they did is they had curtains, and I'm the queen of curtains, I sold curtains.
Curtains
And
are awesome.
you took it, and it was just shears, and they had something on underneath. And they took it, and they took one in the front and one in the back, and they just put a necklace on front, a belt in the middle, and they had leggings on, and they were a ghost. White face, white hair, done.
Yeah.
Very simple. So check magazines, it's amazing what you can find in these things.
How much time do you have?
We're until 2:30, so we have lots of time.
So we got another 45 minutes.
Oh, well, all right.
Another question?
So when it comes to prop building, one thing that I've routinely had difficulty finding for cheap in Edmonton is plastics, especially clear plastics like with the data pad that you have there. Any recommendations?
Dollar store.
Yeah.
Dollar store will have, has a number of the, those as well.
Especially like in little kids' toys.
Yes, kids' toys, Value Village, of course, is your best friend.
If you want to build things with clear, like semi-domes and that,
Yeah,
craft
something like a
stores.
visor or something.
And even the plastic beer cups you can find in the store. Those two.
Pop bottles make
Pop
great
bottles
visors.
as well, yeah.
Just make sure you get the edges. so they
Sand
don't
it down
cut you.
and clip so that they're not gonna cut you, or if you're holding it. If you're gonna put it into something as like a little window or whatever, then it doesn't matter if the sides are sharp or not, but still be careful with those.
Also, sometimes you can get like it's like bendy plastic, like in the pool toys. You can just cut apart some sort of little inflatable pool toy, and you have this nice clear piece of plastic, and you can find it in almost any color you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't be afraid to buy things to destroy them, to make what you
Yeah,
want.
yeah.
Like, that's where the dollar store is, to me, is fabulous, is I want that little part of it, oh, it's only $1, okay, take it all,
Yeah.
cut it out, throw the rest away, or
And if
put
you
it in
wanna-
your,
Yeah, exactly,
Use
and
that.
if you wanna do something with, circuitry, if you have a dead computer, dead cell phone,
oh,
dead
you mean
whatever,
like this?
like these pieces that you can find on the insides of
Yeah.
cell phones,
So,
just smash it apart.
yeah,
Computers are a little
that's a
easier.
Oregon plant to be.
Yeah. Cell phones, you just smash it apart, it'll be perfect.
Yeah. So-
Trust me, when you office space something, it's very satisfying. To get the pieces.
Totally, so, and they even come with handy little holes if you just wanna sew it on something.
More questions?
What's some of the weirdest materials, Joe, I'm gonna go down, get everybody to answer this one. What's the weirdest material you've ever turned into something?
Oh, it's gotta be a VCR. I don't, most people don't think, I work in a school and I saw it lying out, someone had thrown it in the trash, and then it was thrown out of the trash, and it was laying on the ground, and I was like, ooh, dead VCR! And, I mean, my staff know I'm already quite strange, but, I mean, to be excited about a dead VCR, I had the custodian come in and help me rip it apart. And, the staff just came in and took one look and went straight out the staff. And they asked me what it was for, and I says, you'll never believe me. Trust me, it'll be something that you would never, ever imagine. So I think the VCR has to be one of the strangest things I've ever taken up with.
Collector edition liquor bottle cans, actually. I have 2 Jack Daniels bottle tins that I plan on turning at some point into rockets for my steampunk costume. Still working on it.
I work mostly with fabric, so, however, one time we did make a good battle brought outfit by taking an old leather coat, ripping it apart, and hot gluing washers, large washers all over it to simulate a form of armor.
Toilet paper, a lot of toilet paper. I do a lot of work with liquid latex, and because I do so much zombie stuff over the year, I can make wonderful wounds that I can reuse. Except sometimes they get stuck to stuff. I had a whole bunch of sand in one of my big leg wounds that I made because I had to play volleyball after doing a Dedmonton parade. So I'm like, I don't have time to change. So, well, my team wouldn't have enough people. So I ran in my shorts. I'm like, I'm ready. And they're like, are you okay? I'm like, fine. And they're like, you've got blood here. I'm like, it's fine. I'm standing there and I'm all excited and we're playing. The other team's sort of watching because my hand is starting to fall off a little bit. And then I ended up diving, and so it was just like covered in sand. You can wash some of them too, which is nice. I have to remake them after.
Honestly, I'm not really sure. I think probably the strangest thing. I'm gonna have to say it's I don't even know. I mean, I just use a lot of like thrift store stuff and tear it apart. I'd say probably children's rollerblading like pads, like little armor ones. And they have like little Hot Wheels things on them. They look like they're little car wheels. But I used them for one of my graduate costumes, and I just kind of repainted it. And you know, they're meant for children, so they're like really brightly colored. And for a few of them, I just used it as it is. I didn't really alter it, so it looks ridiculous, but that was kind of the point of it. Honestly, I'm kind of boring when it comes to reusing.
I have another one. The handle from a rake or a hoe or whatever, the tops off 2 wooden canes and a bunch of tiki torch, metal tops turned into a trident.
You have to really think outside the box. Just look at things differently. People always laugh at me, go look at something and I'll look at it upside down.
Yeah.
Because when you take a look at something at a different way, and can I take it apart and deconstruct and reconstruct into something that I want? You'd be amazed at all the things that you even have at home that you can use.
I once made a tiger's tail out of a metal clothes hanger, a pool noodle, and some fun fur.
Yep. Yeah. My brother made a Sony kill stick with a chunk of cardboard. From the Mega Tokyo comic movie. I got the reference.
I also just want to go back and kind of reinforce on the coupon thing. I know it's a pain to get like newsletter emails and like stuff sent to your house, but actually, if you next time you go to like a fabric store and they ask if you're part of the mailing list or anything like that, just sign up. They don't really send you that much junk. They'll send you notifications on sales. I mean, it's definitely worth it, and it's usually free to be part of the newsletters and I guess like membership clubs. There are also, Joann Fabrics has their own little magazine, and I think it's like $3 for a magazine, and inside they have lots of coupons for the store. And if you plan and use your coupons accordingly, you can definitely get that $3 back from saving on fabric or jewelry or whatever. So definitely kind of search around in their magazines that they offer and their coupon books. I mean, it really does help. I mean, just kind of grin and bear it and just get through all that excess like mail and emails that you get. Because honestly, in the long run, you're going to save lots and lots of money.
The correspondent for the year in Edmonton would be if you're a member of the Fabric Line Sewing Club. Every year when memberships come up, you'll get a coupon and what is it, 5 meters for
50% off 5 meters of regular price fabric.
and their bargain section.
Yeah.
Always hop the bargain section and look through it. The Fabric Line here also does a thing where remnants, if you work with, maybe a meter and change for things, buy 1 remnant, get 5 free.
You have to check the fabric lines though, because not all of them will offer that.
Yeah, usually the standalone stores are the ones that offer those deals. However, sometimes you can find the ones that are inside a mall or, just a really tiny corner place that has a lot of those. It also depends on how much business they get where they are.
Friends are a good connection too.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Tell them. I have that too.
Speaking of, yeah, like having a friend who works in a mascot making business with scrap fur available is
Scrap
always
fabric.
wonderful.
We always have a box by our back door that is full of scraps of fur and other materials that they're not big enough for us to use for a costume because we work in like meters of fabric, not quarters of meters of fabric. And they're always available for people to come in and take them away.
Yeah, and if people know that you're looking for something, the more people you let know, you'd be amazed what goes flying away. And I'm gonna show you something. Came flying my way courtesy of Shelley. Help. Yep. Shelley had this in the garage. And, decided, it's vintage, 1930 silk curtains. That I made into, you know, it's as simple as somebody's got something in the garage and they haven't had time to throw it away. And if they know that you're willing to work with just about anything, you'll be amazed at what you can
I have a Renaissance dress that is made from the fabrics of the Jubilee Auditorium and the Phoenix Theater. They were getting rid of their old curtains, someone grabbed them, and it's now a rather elaborate Renaissance dress.
So what you're saying is if you have scrap pieces of stuff that you don't think you need, hand it to a friend, that they might.
They might be
Yeah,
able to use it.
It might be something they're looking for.
Yeah.
And then you don't throw it away, say, oh, wait a minute, that piece.
It's been repurposed.
Yep.
We've actually had a craft party where somebody brought out a couple bags and said, okay, I don't need any of this, and people were
Please,
diving into it.
seriously,
I
yeah.
can use that.
Yeah, there was almost a cat fight going on, arguing over pieces, and you're still not getting that chunk of
I
fabric.
don't need it anymore, but
Good,
like,
it's mine.
because Lisa let me into her tickle trunk and I got some really nice pieces
But
of
what
fabric.
like this lady said here about throwing away those sheets of plastic,
Yeah.
don't throw them away, maybe give them to somebody else.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I can make a new prop with them. Why
Right,
make-
Yeah.
and the Edmonton Reuse Center is a good place for stuff, odd stuff, like clothing and things can go to Goodwill, Salvation Army, Value Village, but for the oddities, the Reuse Center is a good place. It's also, as Hilda said, a really good source of things, but you do have to keep going back because the stuff changes as people throw things in.
I made this, fabric that was like a remnant piece at Walmart. The black is a duvet cover that my landlady's a great source of stuff. My landlady like her. And then I was sewing on and I didn't have time to do this, so I just used two-sided tape and just stuck it on. Now, eventually, if I have time, I will sew it on properly. But I mean, it's a nice little jacket. It didn't take very long to do.
Pirate jacket.
And it goes great with the hat.
And going back to, like, having people help you out by giving them, their old straps. College move-out days, people are trying to get rid of everything because they don't want to take it home. That is the best time to find the most interesting things. People do go dumpster diving for some neat things for props and costumes. And also, if you know of a clothing store that's going to be closing down, it does not hurt to ask and see if you can get mannequin forms. I actually have 4 mannequin forms that are completely free because the company was shutting down. And previously I had mannequin pieces that they weren't that great, and I still paid like $35 for them. But now I have these perfect, torso forms, completely free, didn't cost me anything. I use them all the time. It never ever hurts to ask. The worst thing is they'll just say no, and that's that.
Well, the quizzical look and then they'll say no.
Yeah.
That's the worst.
And like
You
that's where
actually
it's,
use the mannequins, sorry, you actually use the mannequins to build your costume on the form as you're advancing it, so you have like a humanoid instead of just working off flat surfaces.
Yeah, and what you can do is, if the mannequin's not your right size, what I usually do is I kind of take excess scraps of fabric and kind of build up like the waistline or the bust line or anything like that. And,
too.
yeah,
We should
yeah,
mention
and
that.
if your friends know that you do a lot of stuff like this, sometimes they'll find something. My friends found a body form that they gave to me for my birthday, which is really awesome. It's a really nice one. Or like my friend was nice enough to let me bury a dress in his backyard for a couple months.
What did you bury the dress for?
I was doing a zombie bride costume,
Right.
and so I went and I was trying to find, I originally didn't want to find a really nice wedding dress because I didn't want to spend much, and I didn't want to feel bad when I was destroying it. But the cheapest one I found was beautiful, no stains, and I'm like, okay. So I started to tear it apart and stuff, and then we buried it, And then we dug it up, and because it was Scotch guarded so well, I actually ended up filling my bathtub with mud and leaving it in there for another couple of weeks.
That's
fun to
the
clean up.
dedication to the.
It was not fun to clean up after.
Do you live alone, or do you have
I
a really
really-
understanding family?
I was living alone, and I had a friend upstairs in the apartment building, so I was using his shower.
Nice.
You can actually build a custom-made dressmaker's dummy by putting on an old t-shirt you don't care about, wrapping yourself in duct tape.
Have
getting-
some friends
They do
wrap
this.
you in it.
Yes, yes.
Get them to cut you out of it, then you tape it back up, stuff it with newspaper, and it will be your perfect body size, all the lumps and bumps and whatever for making your own costumes.
As a corollary to that, one of the conventions I was at, we did a costume panel. And once you've got your duct tape torso form, you cut it off, you taped it back together. The expanding foam in it works really well if you don't have the stuffing for it. It makes it a little more rigid.
Mine, which I have like that, I had a dress form, which I was very fortunate to get for a ridiculous price, $30 at a thrift store. As soon as I saw it, I put my hand on it and went, mine. You know, took it around the thrift store with me. But of course, I'm not stock size, so we did the whole duct tape shirt thing, and you have to have very good friends to help you with that, because you use more than one roll of duct tape.
Oh, yeah.
You have to
I think I
use a
used
lot of
4.
duct tape on it so that it's rigid, and they cut you out, and I put it straight on top of the form, and then stuffed it with newspaper. So it stays like that. If someone wants to borrow the form, I just take my shape off, let them use the form and shape that off.
And another quick thing to kind of discuss, for wigs, if you can use your natural hair, do it, like braiding it or styling it. If you are trying to copy a character that has like really extreme like gravity defying hair, there's hair cement spray, and you just use that. It comes in a big yellow can, and it's usually in the hair product aisle, and it's a little bit expensive. It's a little bit expensive, but you can. I mean, I still have my the same can I've had for a year, and I was able to see, where am I? Right there. I was able to have that stick up, and I didn't have to mess with it for hours on end, and I actually had to take 2 showers to make sure that the spike would go down. And so you can style your own hair to have these kind of gravity-defying looks to them, and you can always dye it. What I would suggest is do not use that Halloween spray, because it's going to get on your costume and it's going to ruin it, and it looks cheap. Use actual natural color hair dyes. They stick much better. Because if you do like a crazy color and you have a job to go to that does not allow unnatural colors, it's not going to go away. So
Sometimes they don't
experience.
wash out as fast as you expect them to. I know a lot of people have trouble keeping them in. I've been trying to wash mine out so I can change it,
yeah.
but I've been trying to wash it out for a couple of weeks now. And it just kept getting brighter for a while.
Yeah.
And so now I think it's toning down a little bit.
Yeah, so don't expect to dye your hair like blue for just a weekend or 2 days and then have it come right out, because it does. And then you're gonna probably get in trouble with work.
Actually, I do have a note on that. I learned this years and years ago. If you take a clear color, a whitish colored conditioner and Kool-Aid, you can put that in your hair. You'll have it it'll be in your hair for maybe 3-4 days. You wash it out. You're gonna have a slight hint of color. I don't recommend this for people with really, really, really blonde hair. But if you've got kind of a darkish blonde or a dark hair like my own, go for it. It'll give you a nice tint. It really would.
Yeah.
And if you have to do the Halloween spray colors, get a white barber's cape. That works as well to cover your costume. So.
What was the name of that hairspray that makes it stick?
I think it's I think it's from like the got to be, like got and then number 2 and just B, hair cement spray. So,
You can give it to me. Yeah, okay, thank you.
and if you are using wigs, try your best to kind of use a wig that you would be able to repurpose into another costume, something that you'd be able to cut and style. Again, with styling wigs, if you're dyeing them, there's a lot of tutorials online about using FW ink, Sharpies, and don't use hair dye that you would use on yourself. It's not going to work, and it will damage the wig. And use that cement spray to style it. Hair gel is not going to work on synthetic wigs. Just finding ways to repurpose your wig so you're not going to end up paying $40 for like each wig, and all you could have done is either cut it or re-dye it. So.
I know, like, I bought a bunch of wigs. I was lucky I caught them at a good time when Shirley Potter's was closing before they turned into Theater Garage. And so I got a whole whack of wigs, stupidly cheap. And they're decent. They're not like they don't have the skin part or anything, because I got one of those because I thought, you know, I might need a work wig because my hair is kind of blue. Some places have a problem with that. But I ended up not needing it.
On the subject of makeup, I noticed Taylor is wearing gloves, because you will find if you're doing something like an Endorian and you dye yourself blue all over, or a green Orion slave chick and you're green all over, and you do your hands, everybody will know where you've been because you will leave the colored fingerprints behind.
Yes.
Wear gloves.
Yeah, it's just much easier to just wear gloves, because also, again, like it's gonna rub off, because your palms are gonna get sweaty, you're gonna be touching things more often, and it's better just to disguise them with gloves. I mean, I'm not blue, oh my god.
And you, another thing, if you've done a full body one like the Green Orions did, you may need help getting it all off in the shower.
Yes.
Or else you'll be finding green bits of paint in unusual places for a long time after.
And you can ruin
nothing on your
clothes.
shirts.
And you can ruin your clothes as well.
So an all-over costume with just a little bit of makeup is usually a lot better than covering yourself in colored paint.
Does anyone have questions right now? We're still-
What kind of stuff do you use to do that body paint?
I use two things. I use primarily Ben Nye. They have theatrical makeup and Halloween makeup. This is Magic Color Liquid, and it comes in like 1-ounce bottles, and they usually have like a brush applicator, but I usually use like little sponges to just kind of like spackle it on. And I also use Snazaroo little cake things, and they're about $8 for each thing, but it's really worth it because I've had the Snazaroo like cake things, and it's just for over 2 years now, and it's just now starting to see the bottom of it, and I've worn this kind of a costume at least I think 3 times, so it's good for multiple applications. So I mean, while it seems expensive, in the long run, it's still saving money rather than, you know, getting something cheap that's going to rub off all the time and just kind of splurging on something that's going to last longer in quality and quantity. So,
What adhesive do you wear for prostheses?
adhesive, I just use spirit gum, and usually at Halloween stores they have like tiny bottles of liquid latex, and I just use that to kind of close up the seam so you don't see like behind, you know, underneath my ears and things like that. And you can just use a hair dryer to hurry and speed up the process of sealing latex.
Did you read that appliance yourself?
Also, there's this stuff called Prozaid, which I find that guys prefer because if you sweat it all under your makeup, spirit gum will hold.
Yeah.
And latex will start to come up. But this Prozaid will hold through that, and you can also get some really nice like finishing powders. So I know my friend, we do a lot of parades with Edmonton in the summers, and so he would just like sweat all of his makeup off by the end of the parade. So he started using it, and he would still have his makeup on at the end. It was really nice.
Where would you get that stuff?
Currently, for Prozaid, they're going to be trying to get it in at Theater Garage, but because they're still a new company, to sell certain products? I think so. And I think they might have it at Carrie's costume in St. Albert.
In terms of latex, I've been using a lot of the stuff from the art store to make props and whatnot. Is that different than, like, is there a makeup-based latex? Or can I use the art store stuff on my skin?
When you buy the stuff that you get in the costuming store, it's like that tiny little bottle of liquid latex. And so I was kind of sick of paying like a stupid amount of money for a small amount. So I went to Michael's and I got this stuff called a mold builder. And it says don't put on your skin, but I've never had any problems with it.
But some other people might though.
It's essentially the same latex. It smells the same even, like, has that disgusting fishy smell.
Yeah.
It's just a much bigger bottle.
If you're gonna go for that though, is that if you know you have a
Test
known
it
latex allergy, definitely test it on an inconspicuous area first.
Yes.
'Cause you don't wanna just buy it, try it, put it on, and then suddenly
You
have a
should-
severe reaction.
You should do that with most makeup though.
Yeah.
I know a group in Seattle, thing on a diplomatic board, who instead of spirit gun, they actually use surgical glue to hold on the whole thing on appliance, because they can then go from dawn till dusk in the same appliance without having any problem. But of course, then you have to remove it very carefully so as not to take off a layer of skin. But it's a case of if you're going to be in it all day, and it has to be perfect for that whole period of time, that works.
That reminds me, if you do order Prozaid, make sure you get the remover, or else you will have a very hard time getting it off.
With the medical glue, is there a, also, ask you a question, where would you get it? And is there a medical solvent for removal of that?
I'm not absolutely certain, I'd have to talk to the Klingons in Seattle, they've been up here for conventions, that's how I knew that they used it.
I suspect that medical glue is cyanoacrylate based, so essentially something chemically very close to crazy glue.
Yeah.
How much did it cost for all the latex for you?
This is actually a commission piece. I didn't get to finish my own in time. But usually for casting something like this, you need, and I have a panel tomorrow on sculpting, like doing latex sculpting. Usually what you need is you need gypsum cement, you need, what's that called, burlap for reinforcing this gypsum cement. You need oil clay for making your mold. You need a head bust, either of yourself or of just a model one. It's usually harder that way because then you have to make exact measurements to make sure it's going to fit you. And then usually you can buy big things of casting latex, and it's very expensive for, I think, it's like almost $40 for, I think it's like 2 pints. So, and a gallon is about over 100. But if you're gonna be making a lot of them, either for your own use or maybe for if you're selling them to get money back, it's definitely worth it in the long run to buy these things in bulk, because this is the thing that I splurge on the most is for the mold making. The gypsum cement, I usually get like 2-gallon buckets to a lot for if my mold breaks and I have to recast it. It's more cost effective to get the larger sizes than buying multiple small sizes. And same goes for latex, especially. It's expensive in Illinois. And I use Ben Nye casting latex, and sometimes all you need is 407 latex. It's a little bit stronger and sturdier than the Ben Nye.
One of the places here in Edmonton that you may be able to get that stuff is a place called Viking Plastics. They sell a lot of molding products. And they're over on, they're just off 50th Street, and I couldn't tell you the avenue beyond the fact that it's probably somewhere in the 70s or 80s. Never been there. We get product from them all the time.
Looking at your makeup, I'm just wondering, is it difficult to get off?
No, I use water-based, just because there are alcohol-based, there's latex-based, and water-based. Latex ones, they while it seems like more of an even, smooth application, if you're having like bare arms and the crook of your elbow starts peeling away, because the latex likes to stick to each other, you can use baby powder to actually kind of counter that, but it can also get out of your costume. With water-based, it's easy to wash off on your clothing, and easy to especially take off of your skin. It doesn't leave as much as a stain as something that's more alcohol-based. And alcohol-based ones, you have to use rubbing alcohol as a remover, and that can burn. That can burn a lot, and like sometimes it's harder to get off, and you start like rubbing your skin almost raw. So this is just something tonight. I'm just gonna, instead of just like using a washcloth, which you can do, I'm just gonna get in the shower and run warm water, and it's all just gonna come right off. The soap and water is honestly the easiest way to get it off, and you just have to layer it a lot, because since you have to use water to dilute the makeup, it's a little bit more translucent, and you just have to keep working at layering it.
Applying that makeup, could you use like an airbrush and apply like?
Yes, airbrushes are much smoother applications. I just couldn't bring it on the plane. I didn't want to exceed the weight limit on my carry-on, and it is much more even. And also another downside is, using it in a hotel, you might get a splatter effect. Yeah, so you want to make sure that you have like kind of a system set up where you have like maybe a sheet you brought from home and put it against the wall, and make sure that you're not gonna get it everywhere. So
to keep your work area clean, you might just want to dab it.
Yeah, I just do all sponge dabbing for this, just because I couldn't bring my materials with me, but otherwise airbrushing works. You can get like cheapo like little testers, airbrush machine, and then you just attach the makeup to the bottom of the brush, and it's a nice smooth application. It's really nice. But
Would going like you're talking about taking sewing classes and stuff, would it be a good investment to take a basic makeup course?
Yeah, there's a lot of theater, either colleges or even local theater shops would be happy to run courses for you, and even especially there's tons of online tutorials on how to do basic makeup stuff. That's honestly that's how I learned is online tutorials, videos, and kind of also treating it like it's a painting. If you treat your face like a painting where you have midtones, highlights, and shadows, it really helps having kind of that idea of like you're painting on a three-dimensional form. It starts being kind of instinctive on what you need to do for darker or lighter places. Anyone else have any questions?
Some of the local theater places are very good at sharing tips and techniques. Walterdale Theater this spring summer had a little mini sale of costuming and things that they had. And just going in and talking with them, asking how they did certain things, different techniques, different sewing techniques, how they put things together. They're very willing to share. Same thing with the Citadel. The Citadel last year had this big blow up sale where they got rid of a lot of their extraneous merchandise for incredibly cheap. You keep your ears open, listen to the radio.
There's often a lot of little like makeup seminars and stuff. I know we just did a quick zombie makeup seminar to raise money for Stollery, because I'm doing a haunted house on the 29th and 30th at the Science Hotel. So we thought that would be a nice way to get people in, just to show them how we do some of our makeup.
There's a question over here.
Yeah, sorry if this is a bit specific, but I'm doing Supergirl for Halloween. I got a cheap cape, Valley Village, cheap red velvet cape. I thought this would be great. And then I got these awesome red boots, but when the cape and the boots are together, the boots look purple. So I want to dye the cape because I'm not touching my nice boots, but I don't want to like really mess up I don't want it to be like really dark or purple. I just want to like slightly tone the color down and read it. And what would be the best way to go about doing that so I don't wreck the cake with paint, because I've never dyed fabric before, so,
Depends on what the fabric is.
yeah.
You have to really find out if it's cotton, it might take a fabric dye better than if it's any kind of sateen or any kind of fabric like that.
Okay.
You gotta be careful because, you know, you think you're dyeing it one color and then when it's dry, it's gonna be totally
Yeah.
different.
Can you cut like a strip off the bottom of your cake or a part of
A little
your
bit
cake?
of-
I
And
know
then
people do that.
practice, yeah, cause.
Because one side is more like kind of just polyester, and then the other side is like kind of velvety.
Polyester will probably not take.
Yeah.
Yeah, polyester needs a specific type of dye.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
To dye it.
And it's really
You can't go to,
toxic.
yeah, you can't go to fabric line and get
Yeah.
the dye to dye polyester.
Yeah, you need natural dye.
Okay.
Sometimes like if you've got some spray paint, put it at a distance
Yeah.
and just make sure
Just
you
very
do it
light.
evenly.
Yeah.
You could do a really light, just
Okay.
on top.
I'll see what I can draw.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, spray paint sticks develop fairly well.
I made
Velvet
a
paintings.
regular costume and instead of, because he had sort of a budget, and I'm like, okay, well, I can work with your budget. Instead of me making a suit and green, what we did is we got some spray paint. And because it went on the way it took to the specific fabric, it ended up looking like it was a really soft velvety fabric,
Yeah.
which ended up being really nice in the end.
Is that?
I know it really isn't my panel, but if you go online, there's a couple of different resources where you can see how fabric dyes affects different fabrics in the same color. So I think if you know DeviantArt, they have a few things there that probably help you out.
Anyone else? We have probably time for, one more questions. I know it's a long panel.
You're wearing that makeup there, does that affect your hearing quite a bit?
Yes, I cannot hear very well. It feels like I'm underwater because I can hear myself even pretty loudly, especially like when I'm eating. I'm just like, is my mouth open?
When you're covering up your ears, like, is there ever a health issue like you worry about and not gonna let affect your hearing?
No.
Or just because it's shocking?
No, yeah, it's very hard to get used to. There's no real damage being done.
Okay.
Especially since I only wear this for a few hours.
Okay.
I don't wear it, days on end. It's very rare that I wear this twice in like a convention weekend. And there are methods to kind of fix that whole hearing issue. It's just that it was an afterthought after I had it all painted out, and then I was just like, oh crap, I should have done this.
When Shirley talked about like an Orion slave girl covered paint all over her body, because I know there could be a danger of if you cover too much of your body with the dye.
Well, the whole point is you use very specific body paints that will allow your body to continue to breathe.
There's also a way you can use, if you don't want to cover your entire body, if you have a very specific style of costume, you can take nylons to put on your arms or make a section for your midsection or whatever and paint that the color you're going to be using. And it should match it fairly easily, and you're not covering your entire body in paint. That was actually done for a stone angel, a weeping angel costume that was done down in it was San Diego or something like that for a
Is that the
convention.
Doctor Who costume?
It is, yes, yes.
I saw that.
The pictures are amazing.
Yeah, she modeled it with
Yeah,
sponge
with
paint.
everything, and I was like, I
Yeah.
totally want to do a weeping angel costume. That would be totally cool.
I know like a long time ago they used to have problems like in Wizard of Oz because they were using on the tin and didn't breathe. So that's how they lost this
The
guy.
movie Goldfinger, that James Bond talked about one of his girls he was with. She was killed by Oddjob, or had her body sprayed with gold.
Yeah.
And there, James Bond was talking about cabaret dancers have a problem with overheating. So what they did was they kept an area at the base of the spine.
Mythbusters busted that.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
they did.
Okay.
You can paint your entire body with gold paint and latex, and your heart rate will go up. It's not something you want to do for hours and hours and hours on end, for definitely sure, because it will raise your heart rate, because your body's not taking in enough oxygen.
But it isn't as toxic as implied.
Yeah,
Okay.
and they also painted Carrie with aluminum paint, and they mixed it properly, of course, and she had no issues
Yeah,
with
for
the
the
aluminum
Wizard of
paint.
Oz, Buddy Epson was allergic to the aluminum.
Yes, that was why he lost
That's
his.
good.
So, and like if you look at a lot of the street performers, like at the Fringe, there was the bronze cowboy guy, there was the silver lady, the silver statue lady. They've come a lot further with the
Okay.
metallic body
Yeah.
paints. So
They're
you're
not
not gonna
comedogenic.
them on because I wear them all day at the Fringe.
Okay.
I see the sign of, time is up.
We love you, get out.